guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 231. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Ow! Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop showed off their next year. There was a bunch of leaks, and so Games Workshop just showed off what was coming out, and it's really weird. It seems like it's an absolute mess over at Games Workshop. The biggest and shiniest of these new models is the Satan Shard of the Nightbringer. Nightbringer, I'm kind of lucky that I never bought this model, but I've always had like my eye on it. The Catan aren't my favorite thing in the Necrons. I like the Necron dudes, and man, the Catan felt old. Like, they came out in 2002, and they're these little fine cast things now with a little sword or a sickle that just breaks off immediately. The new model is crazy. It is actually very similar in size to the old model, but just a much more open with everything pointing up and out in crazy angles. We got some little Necron scarabs flying around. His spooky dooky cloak is turning into pixels, which actually is the only thing that I'm not 100% sold on. It might just be the paint job though. I think if you used paint to also like have the cloak be turning into pixels, I think it would look a lot better. Also, I think just seeing it on a white background really lets you see every single perfect like 90-degree edge of that cloak. But man, it looks really, really good. I'm not sure what size of a base that is. I want to say the old one stood on a 40mm base, which is hilariously small for what the Catan are. They are monsters. And it actually is kind of nice for them to be on 40mm bases, because then they can really sneak in and out of areas where now it's on a humongous base, probably a 60 at least, or more likely an 80mm base. This thing is going to be huge. So much of the Necron stuff is so huge. I think the monolith stands on like the 120mm, no, it's a 170mm circle, I think. It is a preposterous base. This guy stands on an absolutely monstrous base. Even just the generic Necron vehicles, like the Ghost Arc and the Doomsday Arc, they're on the 60mm flying stands, but the model itself is so wickedly huge that like it doesn't even matter that it's on a relatively small base. The vehicles are really hard to pilot around a battlefield. Necrons, there's nothing in between little Necron warrior and just giant everything else. This guy is looking pretty cool. I've been thinking about adding some Catan to my army because they're just really, really, really good. I think they have a feel no pain and an invuln. They're just really, really hard to take down, which is that's the great thing about Necrons is they're hard to kill. My favorite thing in the Necrons right now is you take a 20 blob of warriors and then you attach a Necron Lord with the Resurrection Orb. And then you also have Oricon the Diviner for a 5-up invulnerable save. You can make a blob of warriors really, really hard to kill, like hilariously hard to kill. And then if your opponent does manage to drop a bunch of them, you just pop that res orb at the end of any phase you want, and then you get D6 of them back. If you have a reanimator nearby, then you can get D6 plus D3. Like, it can get absolutely silly, and I really like silly in Necrons. This guy is not silly. He is the Shard of the Nightbringer, the evil Catan. Although, seeing that this guy is coming out makes me wonder, is Shard of the Deceiver gonna come out anytime soon? The Deceiver is kind of my favorite of the Necron Catan, and his old model actually looks pretty good. It's just way, way too small. The Catan started out in the lore of the Necrons way back when they first changed from being chaos robots to Necrons. The Necrons were like this spooky, mysterious slave race to the Catan Star Gods. But then that was like the 3rd edition codex, which everyone there's a subset of Necron fans who are like, the old lore is the only lore, it's the best lore, it's the good lore. It's like one paragraph. The entire original codex for the Necrons is all told from the point of view of the other factions in 40k, which is cool, but it doesn't really give you a lot to go on for your faction. I do like the Matt Ward codex for 5th edition, where he created the dynasties and the war in heaven and all of the different named characters that we've now come to love for the Necrons. I like proper Necrons, and I do like the idea of a cataclysmic event that happened 60 million years ago, where the Necrons defeated their gods and are now doomed to immortality. Like, it's just, I really like new Necron lore. Old Necron lore is cool and spooky and kind of still works because it was told from the point of view of the other factions, and so they just wouldn't know. But I do like Necrons with more than one paragraph of lore. What's really weird about Shard of the Nightbringer is he was shown off on accident for Kill Team. He is going to be a non-playable character that you can bring to games of Kill Team. So your little 10-man band of merry men can fight a star god and presumably have a slight chance of winning. But this guy is going to be somewhat useful for Kill Team. The spread that accidentally got shown off online was for Kill Team, and it showed off not the upcoming Kill Team box, not even the Kill Team box that is coming after that, but the next Kill Team box. Adeptus Sororitas battle Chaos Space Marines over a long-forgotten tomb in Kill Team Shadow Hunt. We've got some Sisters of Battle and some Chaos Space Marines. The Celestian Insidiants, which are battle sisters, but with close combat weapons or close ranged weapons. I love the Contender bolt launchers. It's just a little crossbow. They're combi crossbow bolt pistols. It's the coolest weapon. I really, really like it. Then they got their Boinkin sticks. Games Workshop keeps trying to do Boinkin sticks for Space Marines. It's called a Power Maul. And it never looks that impressive or interesting. Sometimes it looks like a baseball bat. Sometimes it looks like, it kind of always just looks like a baseball bat. It's an okay weapon, but it never looks as good as a sword or a chainsword or a power axe. Okay, no, we're getting rid of the Power Maul. We're bringing Sisters of Battle Lightning Claws. How wickedly cool would that be? Ah, man, I want to make Sisters of Battle Lightning Claws. That would be so cool. And it's still a power weapon. It still makes total sense. It's a very close combat, like hyper close combat focused item. That would be really cool. But these gals got Boinkin sticks. I do really like that they're wearing like the Celestian robes, but they only have it on one shoulder. I think that is a really good look. The Sisters of Battle have one of the strongest silhouettes and looks in Warhammer 40,000. These models are really, really cool. Presumably these are sort of made for Kill Team, but are really made for Warhammer 40,000 proper. And then there's going to be an upgrade frame that makes them a little bit more Kill Team focused. And then we've got their adversaries, the Chaos Warp Talons. Now this is really interesting. Warp Talons, I believe, came out in 2013 when they refreshed Chaos and refreshed Space Wolves for the first time. And I think those models are still pretty rad. Like, they're really, really good. This box does look to be a new Warp Talons, which is interesting because Games Workshop very rarely refreshes a plastic kit, even if it's a little old at this point, but not really. I don't know. I don't recognize this as the current Warp Talons kit, because I think the current kit, they're all jumping off of Tactical Rocks, where these guys, only some of them are jumping. And then we've got the Curse Claw, the weird malformed guy who's looking a little rough. And then Chaos Lord with Warp Talons and the humongous jetpack. Both of these teams are pretty cool. I like the Sisters of Battle more, although I do have an idea. I'm not starting a Chaos Space Marines army. But if I was starting a Chaos Space Marines army, I think I would like it to be generic Slanesh. And I have this idea of having Warp Talons but instead of using the regular jetpacks, I would give them butterfly wings. I just think that would look really, really good to have like these evil monsters be kind of pretty looking. I think that would be such a cool kit bash. But I don't know, maybe these models are the perfect thing for that kit bash. You just lose the jump packs. If you scroll down to the bottom of this article, it shows off the roadmap, which Games Workshop should not publish roadmaps. They've tried to do it all edition and it keeps not working out. But Kill Team Tomb World did get shown off and is supposedly coming out. And then we've got a mystery something something, and then we've got Shadowhunt. So yeah, we know that this is coming and we'll see when it is available to be purchased. I feel like if something got shown off so far in advance, I would be tempted just to ignore it, because what's the point of showing it off so early? And like you might think, well, it's just Games Workshop's rule. If something got leaks, they want to publish it so that people can really see how good and awesome it is. But they don't always do that. This year, the Death Guard Lord of Poxes got shown off, and then immediately they showed off the real model because it was coming out. But along the similar times, there was a new Dark Eldar sprue shown off, and we haven't heard a peep from Games Workshop. I mean, to be fair, we haven't heard a peep about Dark Eldar for the past 2.5 years from Games Workshop, but it just seems weird that when some things get leaked, Games Workshop immediately publishes, and when some things get leaked, they just don't mention it. And I feel like them not mentioning it has led to the internet forgetting. Because how many of you guys remember that a Dark Eldar sprue got shown off on Reddit? And it looks really cool. Some people are saying that it is Lady Malaise, which is an old character from the Dark Eldar. I think it could be that, or it could just be a new Lamian. But either way, I mean, I want some Dark Eldar goodness. What is happening with the Dark Eldar? We haven't heard a peep from Games Workshop. Eldar came out at like the beginning of this year. Or was it the beginning? Like Eldar came out forever ago. It feels like everything is all like Games Workshop's wrapping up 10th edition. And we haven't heard a peep about my beloved Dark Eldar. But speaking of my beloved Dark Eldar, you know what else is beloved? EonsOfBattle.com. EonsOfBattle.com is a place to find our merch, like the Nick and J dice. We've also got wet pallets, water slide decals, and we got basing toppers and bits. And it's the best way to support us doing what we do with a membership. Each month, members get a credit that they can use on our new monthly terrain packs or any previous pack we have ever made. This August, we're dipping back into the world of fantasy with some deadly terrain, the Chaotic Cemetery Pack. A series of walls and sculptures depicting the haunting stillness of death and the brutal cruelness of chaos, made in the shapes and sizes needed for games of Age of Sigmar, Spearhead, Sand, and Bone. These perilous walls are surrounded by a set of chaotic statues in the Icon of Change, the Likeness of War, the Bust of Decay, and the Effigy of Excess. All radiating with otherworldly corrupting powers, the Chaotic Cemetery Pack was made by us and is available on our website as STL files or physically printed for you. Games Workshop's release schedule seems to be an absolute mess, because I and a lot of other people remember that Imperial Knights are getting a new model and a new codex. And where's this codex at, Games Workshop? They just updated Imperial Knight rules to drop the points of the big knights, and I think they went down a pip of toughness, but up about 4 wounds apiece on the big knights, which is actually kind of a huge buff because they can get an invuln save pretty easily. And so having more wounds with an invuln save is actually better than +1 toughness, because there's not that many big, humongous, scary anti-tank weapons, and they're still gonna be good at killing knights. But having more wounds to roll for on your invuln that can just auto get rid of the damage is just a better mathematically. And so I don't know if every single knight should have gone down nearly 100 points, but we'll see. Presumably this change was to bring them in line with the Chaos Knights Codex that just came out, because they kind of reconfigured how knights work in general based on their stat line. And the Imperial Knight Codex is apparently not coming out soon. And so they've just fixed the knights to try to keep them in line with the Chaos Knights, and who knows what's going on at Games Workshop. We're missing knights, we're missing the Dark Eldar, and we're missing demons. I mean, presumably knights are just delayed, but what is going on with Dark Eldar and the demons? You can't nerf demons from 40k, it's like half of the setting. They travel through hell to get places for their faster than light travel, and like half the time they're attacked by demons. Like we need a demons codex. I don't know if Games Workshop is trying to decide between doing one demons codex or breaking it down by Chaos God and then publishing 4 demon codexes, or having just like one extra chunky codex that has the 4 different gods contained within it. Like we gotta have the demons, and we gotta have the Dark Eldar. I'm very nervous about Dark Eldar codex coming out because Dark Eldar is in a real precarious spot right now. Games Workshop does not sell a bunch of our miniatures. The miniatures that they do sell have like very data sheets that we use very specifically. Games Workshop, don't touch my Scourges. The Scourges are a heavy weapon team with wings, and the box comes with 1 of 6 different heavy weapons. And I don't care, I'll buy 4 boxes to put together a squad with all 4 of the same Dark Lance or Haywire Blaster or Shredder. I'll do it. I'll buy 4 boxes so that I can have a really unbelievably powerful unit. Don't publish the codex and then make it so that a Scourge squad gets to take 1 of each gun in the box, because that immediately destroys our best unit in the codex. But I don't know. I'm worried about it, but I also kind of want it because I want Dark Eldar stuff. But you know what else I want? To see you guys at Nova, because I'm going to the Nova Open. And the reason I'm going to Nova is because we here at EonsOfBattle have a little collab going with Trench Crusade in a GameFound campaign. We have been getting deep into Trench Crusade here at EonsOfBattle, and this has accumulated in our most ambitious project ever, our first ever campaign, The Catacombs of the Blessed Dead, a collaboration between EonsOfBattle and Trench Crusade for digital and physical terrain. Delve beneath the ruined earth to find the Catacombs, a labyrinth of deadly corridors and claustrophobic hallways all studded with the bones of the blessed men and women who have fallen in holy war. This officially licensed terrain pack includes everything you need to recreate this dangerous modular maze. We also have original compatible resin cast miniatures, perfect for your grimdark miniature battles, the Trench Sappers and the Grace of Flesh, soldiers and demons locked in eternal conflict. The pre-campaign is up. You can follow a link in the description to see what we're offering and to be the first to know what else is coming. If any of you guys are going to be at Nova, please come over and say hi to us if you spot us, and visit the Trench Crusade booth to see the board that we made. And if any viewers have been to Nova before, do you have any tips? What's good to eat around Nova? I'm really excited. I've been to Adepticon every year, but I've never been to Nova before, so I don't even know what army to bring, because I'm going to try to get some games in. Do I bring my Dark Eldar and play with the new Codex? Or do I bring my Necrons because I've been working on my Necrons? Or do I just bring Orcs and we'll see what happens? Speed Freaks have been doing decent in tournaments lately. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I have plenty of painting to get done before I leave, so I gotta get on that. Bye.